T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. My life has value.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Global Watch for News. My name's Lori Swan. Hope you guys are all doing well. We would like to welcome you to the show. If you are in the live chat, we'd like to say welcome and ask you to please keep it family friendly. If you're one of the people that are listening to us on our new podcast and our new platforms, Apple iTunes or Spotify, or what is the other ones?
Those are the only two podcast platforms right now.
Okay.
More to come.
Right. So if you're listening to us over there, welcome. Please share this with your friends. Please make sure that you are subscribed to us. So yeah, welcome. It is Wednesday night. That means we are back on schedule, and we have with us in studio tonight, Big John. Hey, Big John.
Well, it's your old pal back again in a long time.
It's been a long time. Ernie and John, how you guys doing?
I'm doing well.
Good. How about you, Ernie?
Doing all right. Can't complain.
All right. Yeah. Well, we kind of missed an opportunity to meet in person on Saturday. I was kind of upset about that. I hope your daughter's feeling better.
Oh yeah, she was back to normal. She wasn't even sick to begin with. They just wanted her to go out of there because she had a cough.
Oh,
It wasn't
boy.
even that long.
Yeah, Ernie and
Right.
I were going to meet up in Cleveland for lunch, and unfortunately, we didn't have that opportunity. I'm waiting to get down to Big John's side of the country.
Yeah. Come on down to the desert.
We'll have to go down to what is the big steakhouse down there?
Which one?
What
What
big
Atlanta?
steakhouse?
They got all kinds of big steakhouses down.
Yeah.
Everything's
Exactly.
everything's big
It's
down there in
Texas.
Texas.
The best one has an old like covered wagon with a salad bar built into it.
Oh yes, sir.
That's a good kind.
Yes, please.
Did you say
Yeah,
salad?
I salad. I'm a salad person. Anyway, so guys, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank Ernie and Hero for their Monday night show. You guys hit it out of the ballpark. You guys brought up a lot of good things about the conspiracy aspect, or the conspiracy, not theories, but the conspiracy truth and scientific data that we're getting coming out of Maui. So I want to thank you guys for that. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. It was sort of last minute, but we were able to get things done, pulled together. I even pulled on here. I was like, hey, you're doing this with me. I talked to him about it many times before, that me and him should, just have a podcast, and we just shoot the breeze on here. And he's like, I don't know if I could do it. I'm like, dude, don't doubt yourself, man. And he knocked it out of the park the other night. He had a lot of great insight. I mean, he was killing it, especially, doing it last minute too. So,
yeah, it was.
So hopefully he'll be joining us tonight. I gave him the link, so he's
Awesome.
pretty busy tonight. So hopefully he'll come on.
Oh, geez, hold on a minute. Somebody shoot me.
You can't say that on YouTube. That goes against our community guidelines, Lori.
Somebody do something to me. I just forgot to do something. Hold on a minute.
All right. So, Big John, how has the past couple of weeks been for you?
Oh, I've been well.
That's good. That's good. Have you been following all this stuff that's been transpiring?
Yeah, definitely. We always talk about the I did that little live on TikTok on Sunday, and
Right.
we talked about the asymmetrical 8-front war.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah,
where do you, everything is, it doesn't matter if you know that the Maui thing might have been a direct energy weapon or whatever, but there's so much stuff going on. Even if that did happen, and it probably did, but you wouldn't notice it, because you're like, well, what about these fires over here, and what about Donald Trump? And it's just, they got it stacked. They have everything's on the table.
Absolutely. And the thing is too, I added in that live that you did on Sunday that it's not even an 8-front war anymore. It's more like a 10-front.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to the panel, Marcus. Marcus, I am so sorry. I completely zoned out. I don't have an excuse for not sending you the link, and I'm sorry, but
I was going to ask you about that.
I was ask Ernie, I was pulling up links, and something crazy was going on with my computer. We'll get into that in a little bit, but welcome to the panel, Marcus Kaiser.
Hey, guys.
What's up?
Oh, my gosh. The temperatures are up. That's what's up.
Yeah, Marcus is feeling that too. He's down here too.
Yeah.
We're at a balmy 65 degrees here in Northwest Pennsylvania.
Shut up.
65.
You're
hot.
It got up to 99 degrees here in Palos. Right now we're at 90 degrees.
Headphones here. There we go. That's better.
I don't know. It won't even pull. It's so hot here. It won't even pull up the weather on my phone.
Okay.
Lori, I can count on less than one hand how many times it reached 90 here in Erie this summer.
That's crazy. That is crazy. Well, tomorrow it's supposed to be up to 102 tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know what this means? If we have a cool summer, our winter is going to suck.
It's funny you should say that, because I pulled up something earlier today. I was looking at it, and it said that you guys are going to get hit bad this winter.
Oh yeah, I mean it's election year, so hurricanes, power knockout, it's going to be
Right.
all bad this year.
Exactly. Here, let me pull this up. That was what I was going to do when I totally zoned out on poor Marcus. So here we have the map. This is called the National Interagency Fire Center, and it shows just some of the areas. This was the one that I was more interested in any of them was this map right here. Look at all these red areas. That is above normal potential for fire, and a lot of them are already on fire, especially the Pacific Northwest and Canada still burning, guys. Canada.
Wow. Lori, I mentioned this to you the other day. It's not just North America that's having those
No,
problems, but it's a worldwide
worldwide. Mhm.
phenomena going on.
What I thought was interesting, guys, is and please weigh in, Marcus, because you're kind of our spiritual advisor when we talk about these things. Because I'm one of those firm believers that things manifest themselves in the spiritual realm, and then they are conjured up in the spiritual realm, and then they are manifested in the physical realm. So, but I seriously, when God promised that He would not destroy this planet with water, it was said that it would happen with fire, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, but these globalists, these Molech and Baal worshipers, they all want to jump in and take charge of God's plan and co-opt it for themselves. They want to make Revelation unfold according to their will, their way,
Right,
and their time.
right,
And so that's a good place where we can pray that it's not done their will, their way, their time, that it's done God's will, God's way, and God's time.
right, exactly. I personally feel that these fires are taking place for Agenda 2030. I think that they're displacing people purposely in order to replace them into a 15-minute smart city. I'm going to show you guys something. I know that Ernie showed it the other night, but just kind of to reiterate a little bit, it says that 14 American cities have signed a World Economic Forum treaty that legally compels them to ban meat, dairy, and private car ownership by the year 2030. And this kind of goes along with, these oh, why is my computer's just not wanting to do anything tonight? Um, and it has a lot to do with the WEF. U.S. infiltrated cities have formed a coalition called the C40 Cities Climate Leaderships. These cities are agreed that that their residents will be forced to comply with the following list of unconstitutional rules: zero meat consumption, zero dairy consumption, 3 new articles of clothing per person per year, zero private vehicles, and 1 short haul return flight less than 1,500 kilometers every 3 years per person. And the list of those cities, not working. This is just American cities are Austin, Boston, Chicago, Houston, LA, Miami, New Orleans, New York City, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and Seattle. What they don't talk about here is they don't talk about the fact that in February of this year, I believe it was in the early part of 2023, there was a meeting talking about how Hawaii was going to be literally the first smart city in the world. Correct, guys?
Come on now, that's just coincidence. You know it.
I don't believe in coincidences. Come on.
Here at Global Watch Me News, we do not believe in coincidences.
We do not believe in coincidences.
Finger quotes, coincidence.
Coinky dinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I firmly believe that it is happening all over the world. It's happening in Greece. It's happening in France. It's happening in the UK. It's happening literally all over the world where these strange fires are breaking out. They're misplacements of their displacement. Thank you. Displacing their residents. And when they rebuild, they will rebuild these. I mean, they're not gonna rebuild the infrastructure to the old ways. They're gonna rebuild the infrastructure into these new ways, the smart cities, the 15-minute cities. Thank you. January 3rd. I knew it was earlier this year. Yeah.
Also convenient. Also convenient to their stated agendas.
Exactly. Exactly. John, you and I, we talked about, I think I sent you about the, well, no, I'm not going to get into that yet because we're going to get into, Biden showed up there finally.
Oh yeah.
But in so that we don't get shut down, so that we don't get, the whole misinformation kind of jacket on us. One, I think we can speak generally. I think we can speak discreetly about our opinions on what happened. But I have a few things I'm going to throw up here. And John, you're kind of the expert on the military aspect of this. Hold on a second. Sorry, my computer is not. I don't know what's going on with my computer, guys. It is literally lagging so bad. Hold on. Okay, let's listen to this. Then we'll get you guys' opinion on this.
Breaking news. I don't normally do multiple videos in a day, but holy shit. British Columbia, right now, same shit's going on, just happened in freaking Maui. They have no water. They have no power. Police are telling them they cannot go in and do anything about it. This is, what's it going to take, guys? What's it going to take? I don't know what to say at this point. I mean, yeah, Spokane, Washington's on fire badly. The whole globe is on fire right now. Now, British Columbia, they're doing the same shit. It's going on right now. Like, this is like breaking news. So do some research, look into this. It's going to keep getting worse. Like, it's going to keep getting worse, guys. We got to do something. I don't know what to do, but we got to do something. We got to stand together. British Columbia needs help.
Same thing as we heard in Hawaii. They lost their water supply. They lost the electricity. They sent children home from school without telling their parents. Guys, let's get an opinion on this.
And you can't just blame it on summer heat. Even if you don't believe in climate change, we know that's a psyop. But it's happening in Peru. Peru's below the equator. It's winter in Peru. Peru's on fire. So it's not about summer and simply heat. Probably a few fires here and there are, but not like this. Not all this coordinated thing. Just like we had a series of coordinated train derailments that magically, started on cue and stopped on cue.
Yeah, we don't hear about those anymore, do we?
Right. Magically, all the trains decided to now stay on the tracks. How convenient is that? Wow. Exactly. After we destroyed a bunch of organic farmland, okay, now the trains can run again. But so now we got to burn up a bunch of, place where we want our 15-minute cities. It just happens to be that way for no reason whatsoever. Finger quotes again. Guys, what do you think?
John?
I think everything being modeled off of China, 15-minute cities comes from them. That's the agenda that WEF is running, to have everybody like China, or they're the model. So if it's an 8-front deal and you're making these 15-minute cities, to me you're establishing something for not Americans. I know that may be kind of a reach, but I think if they get it in, it'll be for soldiers. You can pack more people into that, and they don't care how they live. But British Columbia, well, I don't know if y'all know, but there's more Chinese people there than you can shake a stick at. There is tons, and they're all combat age guys. And they have the Salt Islands, which are all Chinese bases. Now, here's something else. Lori, do you remember that they had an article in the Daily Mail about 3 or 4 months ago at Fort Richardson, Alaska? They arrested like 15 Chinese guys trying to run through the gates of the fort, and they were posing as tourists. It got hushed up real fast.
I don't remember that.
Look it up. It was
right
out
now.
for a Now, British Columbia, if you clear that and you already have the Salt Islands and they are in British Columbia, then that makes it better for you. You don't have to fight people. You don't have to go against militias. I mean, obviously there's probably not many, militias or weapons in that area anyways, but if you could have a staging area, and then think about Spokane. What's in Spokane? What's not far from it? Yakima. That is a whole area that you want.
Wow.
With mountains, you can take over probably Montana easily. If the Chinese are sitting, let's not look at military wise. If they're sitting up in British Columbia, they can swoop down into Washington, take the oil fields of Wyoming and Montana, probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Holy Christmas. Yeah, here's the article right here. It says Chinese spies disguise themselves as tourists and tried to infiltrate multiple U.S. military bases in Alaska, including one where they blew past security checkpoint. Vehicle carrying Chinese citizens and a drone recently breached a security checkpoint at Fort Wainwright in Fairbanks. Details of security infringements are largely classified, but officials warn that they are beefing up security in Alaskan military bases. It's interesting because wasn't it just in the news recently that both Russia and China had their Navy ships outside of that area?
They're going to get Alaska. I know I'll harp on it, but the Chinese army is coming to America. I'm telling you, that they have to have that. It's not even about, you can look at, they're seeing what's going on and they're worried about Taiwan. Everybody has their own agenda. Even though you got fires going on, there's so much more going on that they're going to stuff everything with to throw you off track or whatever. But they have a goal. They need Taiwan. That cuts off the that takes over the chip industry, and they want to get Japan too, because that'd be the other half of these electronics, and that cuts off the United States totally from any kind of tracking systems. That everything that comes from Taiwan goes into all of our weapons that that Raytheon builds.
Right.
So, and then to me, everything that's happening in those areas, because why is it those areas? Because I know who's there, and you can swoop down and take all. I mean, you could just take that over in no time. I'm sorry, but they just have people up there that aren't.
Well, do you remember back it was 2014 when the United States and China were doing joint, what do I want to call it? Military operations, and we allowed China to put boots on the ground in Hawaii.
Yeah, well, I'll do you one better. They were in Fort Polk, Louisiana, in 2002 during Operation Vigilant Guard.
Mm-hmm. And we've had reports of them coming over the border in New Hampshire. We've got them coming over the border in North Dakota. I mean, literally, it's somebody in chat. Yes, it can be a red dawn scenario, and we've said this repeatedly. And I just pray to God that we don't wake up one morning and we see that Global Watch for News was right again.
Well, they're coming in from Mexico as well, so we can't forget that.
They're for sure down there, Ernie. 100. They
got caught.
There's about 10,000 of them on that private airfield over there by the Del Rio Air Force Base.
And more every day. In that old Greek story of the Trojan horse, they were tricked by letting the enemy inside the walls of their city, which hopped out at night and took over the city. But in this case, it's happening openly with the full cooperation of the traitorous government, those people in charge, they've already sold out, and they're doing what they do best. Their loyalty is not to the USA people, it's to the masters over there, and they're doing what they're told to do. And they think that they're gonna, I don't know what they think, they're gonna save their lives, or they're gonna cut some deal, or they're gonna be safe.
Nope.
These people are idiots, and they're going to get a lot of us killed, unfortunately. So, yeah, and spiritually, do I think this is part of, you know, God's judgment on us? Absolutely.
It's
Oh,
in the art of war, a traitor gets a worse death than the enemy. So they think that they're going to be, oh, we're going to be safe, we'll just let the Chinese take over. They're going to get the worst punishment rather than citizens, because they're hate traitors.
Speaking of traitors, has anybody listened to the traitor in chief, his speech in Hawaii?
Yes, I was talking to you about it earlier.
Yeah, let's take a listen.
I don't want to compare difficulties, but we have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Years ago, now 15 years ago, I was in Washington doing Meet the Press. It was a sunny Sunday. Lightning struck at home on a little lake. It's outside of our home, not a lake, a big pond, and hit a wire and came up underneath our home into the heating ducts, the air conditioning duct. To make a long story short, I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat. But all kidding aside, I watched the firefighters, the way they responded. You know, there's an old expression. I grew up right across the street from a fire hall in Claymont, Delaware. And the expression is, God made man, then he made a few firefighters. You're all crazy, thank God. The only people who run into flames to help other people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we know that all of this damage is from the top down. It is sponsored by the powers that shouldn't be, the evil people in high places, because they're ordering the police not to let people out. They're, you know, keeping the people in the danger zone, in exposure to smoke, fire, and increasing the death toll. And there's just testimony after testimony after testimony. Anybody who does even a little bit of research can see story after story after story from just regular people posting it stuff. What's different in this day and age with the internet, you know, is if they're not totally shutting the internet down, which sometimes they do in some places, that then stories eventually do get out and we do find out what's going on, contrary to the official media reports on things. So we know that people are ordered to make the problem worse, ordered to not put in the fail-safes that should be there to stop the problem. No different than with Pearl Harbor, where they were ordered not to, you know, there were stations reporting, hey, there's a bunch of planes flying in. I don't think they're ours. Let's do something about that. And they were ordered to stand, oh, ignore that. You know, so there's story after story after story. We could give a dozen of them where we do have structures in place to deal with things and help people, and they are specifically told not to do their job or to do the opposite of the job. Firefighters, a guy, it's the Enter the Stars guy, his YouTube channel. He had a time he had a time where there were fires happening in his area. This is not about this 2023 fire. This is just a pattern. And they had fought super hard for several hours, and they had the fire under control. And there was just a little bit of smoldering, and you know, and then the firefighters come in and say, okay, you know, they were supposed to evacuate. They weren't evacuating. They're hanging on. They're fighting the fire to itself. They're trying to save their home. They successfully pretty much saved it. The firefighters come in and they say, okay, we're here now. Now you got to get out of here. And so they finally, believing that the firefighters are actually going to help and fight fire, what a concept, they do evacuate. And then the fire burns down, because what the firefighters actually literally did was just stand there and let things burn. So we have all the time that the supposed helpers that were set up in society, they're not helping. They're not really helping.
No. And what really irks me the most is the fact that our president had the gall to talk about his near experience with losing a home, but yet state the luxuries that he had with the fire department nearby, being able to destroy all of his, be able to save all of his amenities and stuff like that. Meanwhile, people in Maui, Hawaii was suffering and still are suffering.
They
from
lost
that.
Still are
everything.
suffering. They still are. And,
Yeah,
and
I
the
just said that.
And the gall is the fact that he's offered those people. Look at. I was just listening to one of those talk radio shows on the radio yesterday, and they were talking about Maui. Do you know that a hotel room on Maui costs about $1,000 a night? That's what they're charging people right now.
Yep.
And he has the audacity to give people $700. Like, that's going to help them? While we're sending trillions over to the Ukraine? That's absolutely appalling to me.
No, it's that's they're sending all Ukraine to launder it.
Well,
Right.
and the fact that he did not immediately just respond to the disaster that happened.
He went and took vacation.
Yes, he did.
After coming back from
40% of his staff went on vacation.
Yeah, so this is clearly not here to help. It's not here to fulfill one single bit of his oath of office. None of this surprises any of us here on the show because this is the consistent action. Biden's doing his actual job, which is not anything to do with his oath. So,
you're right. He's doing the job that he was put in office to do, and that is to destabilize the United States as a country, financially, physically, spiritually, mentally, you name it.
And the other thing is to get us so disrespected by all the other nations, for the other nations to see we are A, very corrupt, we are B, very, very incompetent. Before Biden gave that speech, he fell asleep at a meeting, supposedly talking to the victims of these Maui fires. He comes over, he falls asleep instead of listening to anything they say.
The
norm.
It seems to be what's happening through this whole ordeal. I mean, you've got fire chiefs, you've got the mayors, you've got the. Did you guys know? Is the mayor really the coroner?
No, the police chief is.
Or the
police chief
is
is.
the police chief really the coroner?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he let that slip before it didn't slip, and he was the same officer that worked for Vegas too.
Did that not bring the sandbox memories to you guys?
Yeah, as you can tell, folks, we are all super mad about this. This is outrageous. And it's outrageous from every single direction. And we could just vent about it and tell you how wrong and how awful it is, which we could do. But as long as you see this pattern and you recognize that you're being treated worse, you were treated worse than the serfs in the Middle Ages. You know, the way Biden's behaving is worse than Marie Antoinette saying, "Oh, well, if the peasants are starving, just let them eat. If they have no bread, just let them eat cake." So there is insult and injury ad nauseum from every angle, and it's so over the top that it shows they care nothing about us. Now, let me make a statement that applies in general, but I'm going to jump real quick to Lori, you just said, hey, they're not giving any money by comparison, not even one hotel night worth to the Maui victims, and billions and over, I think 100 billion has gone to the Ukraine. I believe my theory is they're giving away all the money. There's multiple reasons, but one of the things is they know in a couple weeks, all this money is about to be worthless anyway, due to economic collapse, due to BRICS and all this stuff. So they're dumping the money while they can get something for it at the very end of things. Like as the music's about to stop on the game of, what's that chairs game? Like I spaced out on the name. Musical chairs, and the music stops and then you try to grab whatever's left.
Well, it's almost like the Titanic. I mean, they're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic as it's going down. You know, I mean, it's when you look at the whole picture, I mean, right from the gate, they let the children out of school early, to not even giving the parents
causing more chaos, causing more chaos,
shutting the water off. No sirens, no alarms went off. Not even nobody's phone even went off. It, okay, so here in Chicago, we're supposed to be up to 102 degrees tomorrow. The heat index is supposed to be in the 100 teens tomorrow. This is how bureaucracy doesn't make sense to me. They have stated that they're going to let school out early tomorrow because of the heat index being so high, but they're going to serve breakfast at school for the kids. And I sit there and I'm reading this article, and I looked at my husband and said, why would they send the children home into households that may not have air conditioning, where these children are safer in the custody of the schools until 4 or 5 o'clock when the heat starts going down? But no, they're going to send these kids home.
There's a maxim that I learned, and once I learned it, it's applied to every area of life. And so I say this thing at least once a week, if not more. And it's this: behavior is the highest form of communication. This single statement is held so true once I learned it. And so what does their behavior say? Their behavior says, from every single angle, plainly says they hate us and they want us dead. That's not an exaggeration. That's not fear mongering. That's not any of this stuff. That is an accurate description of what their behavior is communicating. And so we are, whatever the right word is, fools. We're being stupid if we don't listen to their behavior. And that's why we're discussing their behavior on tonight's show, and take action accordingly. We need to understand what's happening, why it's happening, and try to get some perspective on this so that we can take the right action. We can't control what's already been done. We can talk about their agendas, but let's talk about what we can do and prepare. I can't make government policy. I can't
change
send in
policy.
Fire departments or stop fire departments. I can't send in police or stop police.
Yeah.
I'm very limited in what I do, but while we have this a little bit of freedom left and talking on these platforms, let's talk about it. Let's say the truth as much as possible.
Right. I'm going to put.
Well, you're absolutely right, Marcus. Nonverbal communication is the most effective form of communication. It's not.
Right.
It's not the words they speak. It is the actions and the movements and the nonverbal cues that describe what their true agenda is. So you're absolutely right about that.
And it's not, and I'm going to show something on the screen. It's not just here in the United States. It's not just in Canada. It's not just, we said that there was other places on earth that this was happening. I'm going to put something up here on the screen. This is Turkey. Take a look at this, guys. Do you guys see that? Am I seeing wrong? Am I seeing wrong?
That looks pretty intense.
Unfortunately, as much as there is to talk about, the truth is we ain't seen nothing yet. So people, if you're freaking out at this stage,
Right.
No, stop, because we
Lori.
ain't seen nothing yet, unfortunately. Go ahead.
Lori, if
Well, I mean, we're looking at
Wait, Ernie.
you gotta listen
What?
to the sound too.
Right.
Listen to the sound of what was happening.
can you bring up the either the Kalagi principles?
The Kalagi principles?
What Obama signed us into, United
Was it
Nations.
Caligari or something like that.
Caligari, yeah, something like that. Type in KILIGA, maybe principles. It should come up. I think if people are asking why they're doing this out in the open when everybody can figure out that they're just basically starting bullshit. The when Obama signed us into that in the United Nations, he needed a civil war scenario so he could enact United Nations invading for peacekeeping. And if you think that everybody's like, why is Biden doing this? Why are people doing this? Because they're trying to get people to start a civil war. Which another thing is, every person who had a vision, A. Allen, Dimitri Duduman, it always starts with civil war somewhere in the Midwest.
And this is such a key point here. I'm just going to underline it. It's so on track. They're pushing us and they're pushing this and they're pushing this and they're making it so overt, so ridiculous, falling asleep in the middle of supposedly coming over to talk to the victims.
That's exactly it.
The government, there's no limit to the amount of restriction and control and micromanagement. Our government has told us you can't collect your own rainwater. The government has no right to do that. It didn't create the rainwater. It has nothing to do with rainwater falling from the sky, but yet they want to regulate that. Oh, no, you can't. It's illegal to collect rainwater. Like, there is no ridiculous law they will not create to just micromanage the most intricate detail about your life. So yes, they're going to push us and they're going to try to create civil war. And I'm just going to make my statement, then turn it back. Listen, I'm all about defending your life and your property and what's valuable to you. And there's times when appropriate levels of force are called for. And that's one thing for looters or people coming, robbing or personally attacking you or whatever. It's a lot more complicated. It's a lot trickier. I have to I don't know. I'm more awkward. I'm more exercising restraint when it is a whole government force coming in against you, when it is Chinese invading, when it is United Nations personnel carriers coming down your street. That's a completely different situation. And a vigilante, just a fed up person that wants to just express their frustration back and hurt the invaders, you're in a very different situation. You've got to think very differently. And I don't have all the answers here, but I'm just making a distinction. In light of they're trying to push us into civil war. There's one thing between somebody trying to mug you or rob you or invade your home or steal your car, and people with artillery and tanks and whatever, and an organized fighting force that is expert at crushing any resistance. It requires something completely different. Your comments, folks?
Yeah, definitely.
You're absolutely go ahead, John.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, every foe's different, you go to basic combat training, but until you have to enter that scenario, anything can happen.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, different people. I think that if they're being strategic about it, I know they want to enact those principles because that would give the United Nations full control of a peacekeeping force. And they can suspend, Constitution, this and that. But
I guess what I'm saying is, knowing that they're trying to trigger the population of the USA, those who still believe in some law, into going into civil war, into attacking our own government because of their many usurpations and crimes. It's a setup. It's a setup to bring the hammer down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like I said, it's to enact those principles that I know Obama signed us into that. It was the only way he could get united. He could get peacekeeping troops of anybody, of any country that's willing to give them over for that purpose.
Well, Obama signing the National Defense Authorization Act itself was codifying for the indefinite military detention without charges of American citizens too.
Yes.
So, and he did that in 2012, and that's when all of those executive orders came down. Where he gave the United States Postal Service the okay. So you got to remember that at that same time, that was when the United States government put in that huge order for ammunition. And a lot of us were raising our eyebrows going, why did the United States Postal Service, why do they need all these
I remember ammunition? I remember it well. Yeah, they've got enough ammo to shoot every single American 10 times.
Right. Why does the United States postal system, why does I've never seen my postman pack in, okay, just to let, let's clear that up. But at that same time, he signed an executive order that put the United States Postal Service in charge of tracking every single U.S. citizen. That's why, it's so important that when you move, you have to update your address. You have to, who keeps a charge of all of that in the United States Postal Service?
And they're the ones delivering the censuses. And
Exactly.
a while back, we had people getting these certain colored dots on their mailboxes.
On the mailbox.
I think that's gone away. I think they've moved well
They
beyond
don't
that.
have to do that anymore because of the fact that now everybody's in the system in the United States Postal Service. They're all in the system. When they send out that census, they already know who's in the house and who lives there. They already have the answers to those questions.
And of course, we have the school system is another arm of this control thing. And I know everybody here knows it, but I mean, school kids are asked, to report on their parents, to spy on their parents. Do your parents have guns? How did your parents vote? Things that are illegal to do, but hey, this is a lawless bunch of oppressors at core, and there's no law, there's no rule that they won't break. They have an agenda, and they will do anything that they can to do it. And so we're in, the noose, the techno noose, the military noose, the death ray noose, all of it's tightening, all of it's being manifested more and more and more. And whatever we're at now, you just wait 4 weeks, 8 weeks, it's going to be at a whole nother level of crazy, which is why if you're having trouble digesting all the news and all the mayhem and all the stuff, all the agendas being shoved at us now, just wait. In other words, you need to pray for more strength, pray for more understanding. And this is why it's important to talk about this stuff now, so it doesn't completely build up and just completely psychologically overwhelm people, because it's going to pretty much try to do that as is.
Exactly. Here's the Executive Order 11002 is the one giving the authorization to the Postmaster General. Here's a list of all of them right here. But this is the one that I just thought was interesting, because at the same time this was signed, that was when they were ordering all that ammunition for the U.S. Postal Service. And
another factoid about that ammunition, it was hollow point ammunition, which is not even legal for our own military to use. So there's every little law, everything built into the way this nation was founded. They have to get around it. They have to work around it. They have to sign treaties. They have to sign agreements. They have to get rid of every single point of the Bill of Rights. They have to get rid of every amendment to the Constitution. I mean, they have to totally strip us of our rights. Unfortunately, people, I believe it's coming. As much as a lot of America is really standing on their Second Amendment rights, eventually that will be illegal. And like it or not, that'll never happen. Well, a lot of things we said would never happen are already happening. We have to watch our words now. There is no freedom of speech. And, we're already walking on eggshells, just trying to do what something normal. I've got, I advertise my business on Google, and they're making everything so much harder. There's so many more rules, so many hoops you have to jump through. They just took down my ads. They say, well, you're using a trademark term, and so we have to disable. What are you talking about?
What's your trademark term?
There is no trademark term. I don't know what you're talking about. And so there's all this kind of stuff, and there's all this excuses to oppress you, to, and I'm jumping around, I admit it, but there's that thing about the hand scanner to buy groceries, and you can wave your hand and get your groceries, right? Oh, wow, it's so convenient. And how that may be connected to Mark of the Beast kind of things in future. But the people are reporting you have to scan your hand to get into the grocery store. You have to scan your hand again to buy your groceries. And then you have to scan your hand again to get out of the grocery store. So really, this is freedom and convenience.
No,
folks, it's just the opposite. And everything about this thing. So again, I referred to Middle Ages and the kings and the queens and the lords and the ladies and the dukes and so forth. treating people like serfs, right? You're bound to the land. You can't hunt in the forest because that's the king's forest and that's the king's deer, and you can't hunt your own deer because that belongs to the king and not you, you little pathetic serf. So shut up and take it. But this is all of that. It's those same controllers and their same obsession with control, but now we have all this technology that allows them to control us, to track us, to monitor us, and to punish us in ways on social media, in ways in our bank accounts, in ways in our social credit score, in ways in our digital currency, to an extreme degree that could never be done before in the Middle Ages. So
and we're welcoming. There's not very many people that are fighting back. John, thank you for giving me the proper spelling. I was not being able to find it. This is what you were talking about, right?
Let's see here. Yes.
The Kigali Principles on the Protection of Civilians. Whenever they say protection, I'm drawn to that biblical verse of, when they say peace, peace will not come, but sudden destruction. So I kind of, but this was May of 2015. The Kigali Principles on the Protection of Civilians are a non-binding set of 18 pledges for the effective and thorough implementation of the protection of civilians in UN peacekeeping. Wow. So the United States signed themselves into this whatever this is, coalition. And guys, those blue hats are not our friends.
No, not at all. That's the way
they're not. They're. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, as I was saying, that's just an easier way for them to get in. They'll use different types of foreign troops, and then of course there'll be other invaders, but if you got the peacekeepers here, then you're already inside the walls.
Yeah, this is all designed. You can tell the central thing about all of this, with the fires is leading into smart cities that UN is and WHO is signing treaties against all these nations, in which everybody's going to be coming together under one roof, as depicted in scripture about the one world government, one world religion. We already have Islam established in the UAE. So this is all combining together, and as you said earlier, Lori, they're accelerating things so they can reach their deadline of 2030, in which everybody is under this federal union.
Well, Lori, tell me if you notice this, Lori. I've been keeping track of this. I write it down, but how many times have you been seeing tidbits from the CDC and other publications of health about Ebola?
I have been seeing tidbits of Ebola since 2013.
How much is it now? There's a vaccine for Ebola now? All of a sudden?
It stopped for a while, but last year, or either in 2001 or 2002, I started seeing an uptick of them talking about it again.
They're gonna release Marburg or a genetic code of it, right, to where they're going to give everybody a taste of people bleeding from every orifice in their body, but it won't be like the real Marburg because they couldn't handle that.
In 2014, when the outbreak happened in Sierra Leone, they tried to bring it over to the United States. That guy that flew in, they had two people. They had a doctor that contracted it, and they brought him to Georgia to the CDC.
Yeah.
And then another guy came in, I think, from Kenya, and he flew into Houston.
Well, the woman had it in Dallas. Remember, on the tarmac?
In Dallas, that's it. Dallas, yes. But the problem with it is first off, if you guys don't know, Ebola is a man-made disease. It was created by the governments under the Jasons created it back in the 50s, along with AIDS, along with a lot of other diseases that they created. But it was created under the Jasons. And so the problem with it is this strain that they had back in 2014 could not survive in the weather conditions of the United States, because
Yeah.
as soon as it got cold or below a certain temperature, the virus dies.
Yeah.
But I do believe now they probably have one that can survive in the United States.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something that nobody else has said, but you can go look it up if you want to. Who had a little dog with them when they came over with Ebola on the airplane?
I don't
The
remember that.
dog. The dog was the carrier.
Shut up.
Yes, ma'am. And the vet. Go look up the vet. The vet that took care of the dog died in a car accident about 4 days later.
I do remember that.
They
Oh my
put
gosh.
they put the real virus inside the dog because Ebola and Marburg does not pass through animals, but that strain did. So the dog was the carrier.
I do remember that dog. I mean, I don't remember the dog, but I remember the vet. I remember that story.
Yeah, the vet died 4 days later. That took care of the dog.
Wow. Speaking of dying, that kind of brings us into our next segment here. Do you guys remember us talking about the Wagner Group?
Well, also real quick, we had CRISPR technology came into first in 1987, but didn't really fully kick off until 2005. That means that the CRISPR's been out there, which is a gene editing thing, so simple and so not expensive that people could do that literally in their garage. So, in other words, anybody who's crazy enough to mess with that has been able to do this for almost 20 years at this point.
Oh
CRISPR
yeah,
is no longer a new thing.
They don't make any qualms, or they don't hide the fact that you can do that in your garage. They've said that.
And what do you think has been like, I don't know, because I don't go there and I don't look, but I mean, people with bad intentions, what do you think that they're passing back and forth on the dark web? Correct. What do you think people are trying to engineer and make up and brew up and stuff like that? So I'm saying it doesn't have to be some incredibly elaborate situation. We found a Chinese lab here in Texas. I'm trying to remember the details, that had a bunch of dead rats in that they were trying to.
They just found one in California.
What were they trying to do? Infect them with Ebola? I forget. But this is recent, like a literal lab that was abandoned and dead things all over the place. And it was definitely by China doing this within our own soil. So the point is, folks, there's so many different angles that, hell and high water can come to us. And there's so much in our society that can fall apart. So, supply chains can break down. Trains can go off the rails. Big laser weapons from the sky can burn up your neighborhood. So there is all kinds of mayhem that can be unleashed. And we need to pray that for God's intervention in this, so that it does not go beyond, because Satan is impatient. Satan wants to unleash everything yesterday. And so we need to be praying that for the restraint, and that it does not go beyond the level of judgment that God is allowing, because even in judgment, God is looking for those who are going to come to their senses and repent and turn to them and say, well, I can't trust my government. I can't trust my police. I can't trust my firefighters. I can't trust my military, all of this, because they're infiltrated and they're corrupted. And so let me put my trust in you, God. And even in all this crisis and this mayhem and all of this stuff, it's going to wake some people up. Some people are going to be blind. Some people are going to double down on their pride. But this is an opportunity for all of us to say, wow, God, we really do need you. Tomorrow is not guaranteed.
Right.
And we need God to be showing us what to do, how to prepare, how to be in the right place in the right time, not the wrong place in the wrong time.
Exactly. I've got one more. Thank you for reminding me. I've got one more video to show you guys real quick on the Hawaii thing, and then we're going to go on to the next topic for the next hour. Take a listen to this.
So, as a former funeral home owner and licensed funeral director for over 2 decades, I worked very extensively and closely with our local crematory. I was taught by that crematory that they need to cremate in between 2,000 and 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So the question is, how hot were those fires to be able to incinerate or cremate human remains? We know that it was at a higher level than 1,500 to 2,500 because it melted the rims on the vehicles. Why are there no bodies in the cars?
They were saying that they were having to pull dental records, and they were going to try to pull DNA. You can't pull DNA out of somebody that's been incinerated.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I thought that was interesting. We also saw the same high temperature fires in California a couple years ago, and we know for a fact that those were started by dew as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is good pertinent information, as Marcus said, we got to be aware, but we got to understand that the stuff that we face, one, is going to pale in comparison to what's to come, and two, God has already won the battle. And we got to keep that in mind. I mean, we're going to try to bring this home as much as possible tonight, but our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, has won that battle for us. All we have to do is endure to the end.
Exactly. That's the truth right there. Exactly. Endure to the end. All right. So we're going to move on to our next topic of conversation, which is we did a whole entire show, I think, on the Wagner Group, talking about how they were the equivalent of Academy or Blackwater here in the United States, and we were talking to you guys about it. John, kind of give us a synopsis. So somebody was it? I'm not sure who it was. You can tell me. I think remind me. Somebody hired Wagner to go and assassinate Putin, correct?
Yeah, most likely the CIA to overthrow him. They gave him $6 billion.
And when he went in there, he played so nice with Putin that Putin allowed him to walk out of there with his life and gave him carte blanche in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
And we told you guys, pay attention to this guy because, well, guess what? He died today. Wagner Group leader, I'm not going to say presumed because it's been verified. Prigozhin is dead in a plane crash in Russia. Wagner Group leader Prigozhin was on the passenger list of a plane that crashed in Russia's region on Wednesday, according to the press service of Russia's Federal Air Transport Agencies. Presumed dead. He's not. He's been confirmed dead. 10 people were killed in the crash near the town. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, including Prigozhin. An investigation is launched into the crash of the Embraer aircraft, which occurred tonight. According to the list of passengers, among them was the surname of Prigozhin, the department said in a statement. I do have right now put up on the screen the actual plane going down. Let's take a look.
2 раза взорвалось, падает. Ты посмотри, падает. Блядь. Где, блядь, бабахнет? Куда упал? Вон тут куски летят. 2 раза взорвалось, падает. Ты посмотри, падает.
And what I'm hearing was that this was a bomb and not like some missile. So it apparently, with 90% certainty, it was planted on the plane in advance.
Well, we talked about this before we went live, and let's I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna go back just a little bit to the beginning. Let's take a look. The plane looks pretty well intact. If John, if it would have been hit by a missile, it wouldn't have been intact, right?
Well, to say it's pressurized at a certain altitude, because I know it's like a private jet, it wasn't military. If they say it was like an S-300 missile system, that thing would have blown apart. Man pad, I don't think a man pad probably could catch it after 4 minutes after 10,000 foot. Which a man pad is a shoulder fired missile, so either, like Marcus said, might have been a bomb, might have been some kind of EMP weapon. It sounds like you can hear the engine still at full throttle on it. But no, it wouldn't be intact. There's no way it'd be pressurized plane, and the S-300 hit it, it'd have blown in pieces.
I say this thing came down straight down.
Yeah, it looks like you can hear the engines on it.
See if I can.
Because it shows
падает.
At the
Ты
crash site.
посмотри, падает.
What's that?
It shows it at the crash site, in pieces. But you said it in Broward. I wonder what model. I think I heard like it was an N600 or something. I like to see the plane, as it is, like in a dictionary or something, like what it looked like. But being pressurized, civilian airliners don't do good with missiles or bombs. I mean, look at Pan Am 103. That thing was in pieces before it hit the ground.
Right.
And TWA was also, and that was a missile that hit TWA 800, from that ship. So that thing was in pieces.
Right. You want to see a real plane crash? Go watch the one in Scotland, for crying out loud. And because a lot of people are like 9/11. Let me see if I can find you.
But the report saying that the Russian military shot it down. But yeah, an S-300 missile, that's a big surface-to-air missile. That thing would have blown apart. That plane was pressurized. That plane would have came apart in a million pieces.
Well, they said that the plane, the actual plane itself, had an impeccable safety record.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh yeah, like I said, unless that guy had some kind of anti-SAM system on it, maybe, because they don't have any kind of civilian air pilots, in these passenger planes, they don't know if they're radar locked or not. They won't tell them.
Right.
They don't know what hit them, but unless he has some kind of like chaff or flares or whatever, any kind of missile radar, there's no kind of if it's just a regular old Embraer plane, the pressurized is what really does you in when you get hit by a SAM, even if it's like a shrapnel one or however it takes out the aircraft.
It's like popping a balloon.
Does it wrong.
Popping a balloon and pressurized.
Easily, yeah. Like I said, that's why I like C-130 stuff, like big cargo planes. You probably got a little bit better chance. You won't come apart so fast. But pressurized, that's game over for that.
Trying to see if I can find an actual which one it was.
So maybe I'm jumping ahead, but talking about
the Legacy 600. I'm sorry.
Talking about the implications of this, it could form just a great. Russia's blaming it on the Ukrainians. It could form a great justification to hammer down harder on the Ukrainians. And we got to note that this is right before the Ukrainian Independence Day, so it's a big.
What's that? Belarus, the Belarus, whatever that.
Belarus.
Belarus, yeah. The U.S. Embassy was evacuated there today.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
well, that's where most of the Wagner has 120,000 mercenaries there.
Yes,
in Belarus.
In Belarus, yeah.
So the U.S. Embassy was evacuated there today.
Oh,
this was the plane that was on the Legacy 600.
Oh yeah, like a little Learjet, yeah. Oh yeah, that's pressurized. It's coming apart if a missile hit that.
Right. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Wow. Yeah. So it says that the jet model that crashed reportedly carrying him had a good safety record. The Embraer executive jet model that crashed in Russia, apparently with Wagner mercenary chief Poroshenko on board, has only recorded one accident in over 20 years of service, and that was not related to mechanical failure. Interesting. So what do you think that...
All,
Go ahead.
all I gotta say is them's fighting words, and I think somebody gonna get got.
And regardless of what really happened and where the blame gets pinned, did Russians do it to eliminate this guy who was inconvenient? Did the Ukrainians do it? This, that, and the other. Whichever way you try to play it, and whichever way the governments try to spin it, the net result is just what Ernie said. It's going to be an escalation of the conflict.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. I mean, when you sit there and you look at the things, we saw this coming. I mean, literally, John and I, we both, when we talked about this, I think we talked about it off the air. We said that, and I think him and I both kind of said it at the same time, is that Putin let him off way too easy.
Yeah, definitely. I think he definitely was paid, and he gave Putin. He said, "Look, they paid me," and he, told him what they did, and he let him. Okay, because I mean that was his chef for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another thing. Yeah. When we talked about it on the show, yeah, that you said that Poroshenko was Putin's chef, so they had a close relationship.
Wow. Didn't another chef pass away earlier this month?
Obama's chef had a horrible accident. From what I heard on that today, I heard that, and I can't verify it, so I don't know, but I heard that Obama's fingerprints were found on that person's laptop.
Wow. And Obama brought in his own personal coroner to deal with it. Who the F has their own personal coroner?
Well,
I'm sure the Clintons do.
It's just...
Now they've got a dozen.
So. It's out in the open, but they're just doing what they want. I mean, because they know nobody's going to do nothing about it. Nobody is going to say anything. It's I mean, I'm pretty sure, the weird thing is, well, here's a pattern, I guess. Okay, so the Clinton chef, and then not long after, Hillary was a senator to line her up for the presidency. And now, if I'm a guarantee you, Michelle Obama is going to be some sort of a president or vice president at some point. I think she's, it's going to be Hillary for sure, because if I see Hillary and I know old Hillary on, I know it's time to go. But right. I think Michelle Obama is getting lined up to take over Joe Biden's spot, because the chef died. Hillary gets a spot for president. Obama's chef died. Now they're talking about Michelle Obama being president.
Huh.
Wouldn't she, if she's really a man, that's going to be that. Besides coming from space, that Daniel pretty much described the Antichrist.
Big Mike. Rick says Big Mike.
Yeah. Can you imagine if that comes out? They're going to cheer that on?
Right.
Well, they're setting the stage They're setting the stage with all the transgender. We must conform.
Easily.
We must.
Well, if you look at it like this too, that led to. I mean, that's what I've had in my mind for the longest time about, Bummer being the AC, because his empire is still ruling. You know what I mean? He's working behind the scenes. He even said in an interview that he would like to just be backstage on a microphone conducting all business.
Yeah. And if it says he has no interest in women, well, that'd be a perfect scenario that his wife is really a man.
Oh, goodness. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on that.
I learned an interesting tidbit on this whole transgender thing and gender swapping thing and gender inversion thing, that the elites, and I call it up to count it up to Baphomet. Baphomet is that multi-gender fallen angel with man parts and woman parts and also goat parts, and it's transhuman. But what all these elites do, because we see all the celebrities that adopt kids and then make the kids cross dress according to what they actually are, and so many celebs do that. But what I heard from somebody who used to be on the inside before they came to Christ was that it was the firstborn child in the family. They had to be offered up to Baphomet, and that either meant being literally sacrificed and killed so you can stay in the insiders club and the Illuminati type circles, or this person gave another meaning to pass through the fire, means they had to undergo the full programming things to be MK stuff and beta kittens and assassins and all of that's a form of passing through the fire. But this person said that now, in lieu of actually killing your firstborn person, you can make them switch genders, and that they're calling that now that this person is a living sacrifice. So again, it's another spitting in the face of.
Well, and look at how many Hollywood stars, their firstborn are.
Yeah, so we have people. Life. Yeah, we have people like Charlize Theron and stuff who's not. They're not having biological kids, so they adopt kids. We have Angelina Jolie not having biological kids but adopting kids, and so they don't have a literal firstborn genetically from them, at least not out in public, but they adopt somebody and then they switch them. But I just learned that that's what you can do in lieu of killing your own.
That's quite interesting.
Kids, and that they're calling it being a living sacrifice. Again, folks, this is a direct inversion to the Bible, Romans chapter 12, where we're called to be living sacrifices to God. And that, we say along with Jesus, we say to Father God, not my will be done, but your will be done. Yeah. So they're saying, not my will be done, but Lucifer's will be done. And so that's, anyway, I didn't know this. And now I think of it. Wow. That would explain why a lot of people are doing this.
A lot of the Hollywood stars, their firstborns are transgender now, Yeah, that's quite interesting, because when you look at the occult history of transgenderism, you see that it goes straight back to the Roman times. Before that, but and the Ishtar, but during the Roman Empire, they encouraged same-sex and young map behavior in the bathhouses.
And that was
if you're looking at it, and if we look in the entertainment industry as well, there's a lot of higher profile celebrities. Somebody ends up getting offed. So this is a little loophole, if you will, because the devil don't care who sacrifices, how they sacrifice, as long as they're being sacrificed. And they're changing it out of their original human form into something else. They consider that as a sacrifice.
Exactly. And you've got your all male secret society schools, that they have their yearly what do I want to say, where they put on their plays, and there's no women that dress up as men. It's all men.
Yeah.
And we saw it Bohemian Grove,
Bohemian Grove does it too.
Yeah, they would all dress up and put on coconut,
Yep.
You want to try to piss off you piss off a Freemason on TikTok, you tell them, well, what if I don't have a right hand? You can't join if you don't have a right hand.
Wait, what?
You don't have a right hand. I'm telling you, you know why? Because you gotta, now I don't know how I'm gonna say it, but when they all lay you gotta mess with your buddy next door, and but you don't have a right hand to mess with your buddy, so you can't be you can't do that.
So just cut off their right hand, and you can't extend the right hand of friendship, and you can't give handshake, and
they can't give the common courtesy of a reach around. Another
one. Oh my gosh!
Oh my Lord!
Now, what's that forbidden word they're not supposed to say? Maha Boem or
Boaz.
Well, there's Tubal Cain, but there's
Boaz.
Oh, is that? It's not quite that. It's so close. Write that down and say, well, how do you pronounce that? Because that's a question they're absolutely forbidden to answer. So, it's mess with them. So, used to be
or the apotheosis.
Yeah,
ask them about the apotheosis.
I get them. Oh man, they get mad. They're like, oh well, that doesn't mean anything. I'm thinking, then why do y'all do it? And the
John, you've actually gotten blocked by quite a few of them, haven't you?
I did. Yeah, all the smart ones, they all blocked me.
They used to have all these secrets in the precession of the equinox and all this kind of stuff. All their vows and all their stuff is exposed, and it's really pathetic. It's really pathetic that it's like, what are you guys, 5 that you got your secret little code word so no girls can get in the treehouse or something like that. It's basically that. And it's just people hoarding on to little power and forming little secret clubs and thinking, and oh, you're extra special now. So I'm going to hijack the show and go on a miniature rant on the whole transgender thing, because I am quite frankly pissed off that my expensive education was filled with so many lies. There's so many people that we were taught, and so many things I was taught in school that were lies, which is like, I've got a degree in music. Nobody taught me that Tchaikovsky was just a flaming person, so to speak. Nobody taught me that Freud was a Satanist. Nobody taught me that so many people that we're talking about, Marx was a Satanist. They didn't say the truth about these people. You're supposed to learn about all these things. The people all lifted up in psychology? No. Most of the people lifted up in philosophy. So the people that are the movers and shakers and all these famous people, Socrates, as Bill and Ted says it, Socrates was was convicted for corrupting the youth, right? We read Plato's Republic and all this stuff. Nobody actually told us what that meant and what was actually going on.
Did you know that Sigmund Freud was the first leader of Tavistock Institute?
Oh my goodness. And wasn't it his brother, cousin, whatever, who's the propaganda guy? The manufacturing of consent guy?
Yes, it was his cousin.
His cousin.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's all this tons of sick stuff that's just thinly covered up, but as kids you're taught to study these people, study their thinking. These are the thinking of reprobates. Plato's Republic, everybody's supposed to have this little niche, this little silo that they could put in so they can best serve the state. There's no freedom of expression. There's no fulfilling your God, and so of course, what do we expect from the godless but godless ways? But all of these people, there's so many holes in evolution, a ridiculous amount of holes. All of these things that they hold up, and you're supposed to look up to this thing. You realize these people all had one thing in common. Same thing John Lennon had. They hated God. They hated God. And these are the people that are lifted up in psychology, in philosophy, in science, which is really pseudoscience, and most of the people in the arts, horrible things that Voltaire did. The list goes on and on and on. All of these people, things that various kings and queens did. These are not noble people. These are not people we should be learning how they thought, their value systems and their theories of life, the universe, and everything. These are people that the Bible would say are fools. So I frankly resent that I paid good money and to put a lot of effort into studying things of people that are God haters and really had no idea of what they're talking about. And all of their theories do is lead people further astray into deception. So there's my miniature rant. I'm handing back the show to you.
I want to go keep on that let me say the topic that you were talking about, as far as these people that have changed their sex, that are transgender and stuff. I want to ask you guys, it's a big music fad over on TikTok. Have you guys heard Jericho? Have you heard the song Jericho by Nico?
Never heard of the song or the artist.
Okay. So I'm going to play you a song, and I think Marcus will have a lot to say about it when we get done here. But I think John will as well, because I think it goes on the whole the goddess part of this as well. There's only one verse that actually rings like red flags to me. So I'm just gonna play it.
Hi, I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gone, I've been far away. I'm illuminated now, make a move, start the waves. I've been dreaming about flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a cosign. Yeah, artificially intelligent way. I'm your future, past and present, I'm a fine line. Yeah, I'm a missing link of this illusion. I am not really here, I'm an intrusion. I don't swim or sink, I just float. I don't need gravity, I just need growth. Oh, when I move, it's an earthquake rumble. I won't ever fall, never stumble. And I don't need to be humble. Break down walls like Jericho crumble.
Yeah, I had seen that. I won't listen to that creature, just like I won't listen to Taylor Swift. And this creature says that they're no gender. And it's sort of the same things like Katy Perry says, I want to have sex with this alien, fill me with your poison,
Right.
all of this kind of stuff. So it's straight out of Lucifer. Do they have a decent voice? Absolutely. But is that thing human? I don't believe it is human.
I thought at first that she was AI until I did a little bit of research on her, and I found out that she is actually into goddess worship, which would run right along with what John's been saying. John, what do you think? Have you heard that?
Maybe a little. Yeah, I might have been in some sounds on some videos on there. Not on mine, but
No, not on any of ours.
I actually did hear that.
No, Eric listens to that. No, I'm teasing. So I heard the last verse. She said something about no need to be humble, and and they're still pissed off about Jericho. I'm sorry, but Jericho inside those walls were the Anakim. And they had, Rahab was a human woman that was there that hid the spies. They actually could only talk to her, Joshua did, because she was most likely not involved with the DNA manipulation. And then God told her, well, for that, 10,000 to your left will be slain, 1,000 to your right, you will be untouched. But yeah, so there, like I said, Jericho walls were built by Nephilim. And this person just said about how there's no reason to be humble, so that we all got to be humble. That was the whole thing with Paul the Apostle. And then the walls of Jericho. So they are pissed about that. And then I find that they put that lyrics, in these newer age songs that relate to Nephilim problems.
Yeah, I mean, this is just Luciferian talk galore. It's in your face, but they make it trendy and cute and catchy. And
yeah.
It's straight up, mental soul poison they're just dumping on you. And yeah, there's multiple videos and dancing around and in different costumes and all that. They love to put their poison in the form of entertainment. And a lot of us earthlings gobble it down, unfortunately. No discernment.
She sang in her church choir. Interesting.
And when you look at testimonies from people who are hardcore, they were engineered to come into being, sperm and egg artificially put together but they're all in the Illuminati bloodlines. When we say that, we're referring to 13 main ones. There's more than that were exposed and outlined by Fritz Springmeier in his book on those 13 Illuminati bloodlines, many of which were in the original ships, coming to the quote unquote new world of the USA. There was plenty of those Illuminists there. But when you listen to their testimonies, what was I going to say? That they are specifically introduced to Christianity. The enemy needs them to be familiar with Christianity. In this last testimony I was listening to, it was yet another person that was being groomed to be an expert infiltrator into the Christian circle. So they listen to Bible stories from a young age, so they can completely speak the talk look like a good Christians and all of that, because the enemy desperately needs to disarm the church, keep it dumbed down, keep it asleep, keep it compliant, have it not take a stand, have it not use its spiritual authority to stand against evil. And so the enemy is busy putting its operatives into the church, just like America's national enemies, such as the Chinese, are busy putting their operatives inside our nation. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Get it on the inside and destroy them from the inside out. And these people who were brought up to be intensely trained to be God's enemies, intensely trained to be able to be on the worship team in churches and so forth, they sometimes that exposure backfires. That exposure backfires to Christianity. Like in this example, the little girl accepted Jesus for real at age 5 and wasn't supposed to do that. They introduced them to Jesus. Then they typically, and there's some variation, but typically then they'll have somebody dressed up like the stereotypical Jesus figure come and rape the person. In other words, to instill abuse and hatred and associate pain to God and have the person resent God. Oh, here's God. Oh, good. I love God.
Unfortunately, I went down that rabbit hole when I was researching SRA and the ways that they introduce, the way they break the psyche and then introduce the demons into it. I mean, it's pretty sick, and it's I can't imagine a person. I can see how that person, their psyche would break. I want a person could not go through what they go through and come out of it a whole person on the other side.
And at the same time, we see miraculous stories of people being delivered from where, like they're about to be sacrificed. There's many stories where they're about to be sacrificed for real. The dagger plunged into their heart, and angels intervene or Jesus intervenes, and all of these monstrous figures who are so full of demonic power 1 second before are on their knees on their ground, screaming their guts out because they cannot stand the presence of Lord Jesus Christ in these extreme situations. He does rescue. He does save. Our God is still mighty to save. Doesn't mean you don't get abused and damage is done, but God will still only let it go to a point. In our view, it's a pretty darn extreme bad level and point, but God has rescued these people, saved them out of the moment of death. God has stopped time on several occasions and physically moved them out of the room. Many things like this. So the evil one knows, it believes more than most of the people do, how real God is. And when God shows up for real, the enemy is instantly on their knees. And even these huge, monstrous principalities and fallen angels, they know Jesus is real. They are terrified of Jesus because they know that Jesus is their judge. And so evil knows the real situation. It just wants to hide it from us.
Oh, yeah, it knows. They know exactly who Jesus is. You're right, Marcus.
So our only point of protection is standing on the truth and rebuking them in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. And we need to rebuke these moves of the New World Order to just burn up any land that they feel like taking over in just opposing all these draconian kinds of laws upon us. We know that the world lies in the hands of the evil one. And we know that this is the, zooming back and looking the big picture, this is the season in which the Antichrist will come to power, and there's going to be massive amounts of crisis coming upon the earth. And I'm talking, and I don't really know timing. We're ballparking the timing. That's all we can do. Right. In the next, my best guess is 2 to 3 years, 2025, 2026, leading up to that. I think, could be wrong.
No, I think you're right about that.
Massive crisis.
Yeah, I think 2030 is going to be the cutoff point for. Yeah. So it would have to be in the next.
So I heard something interesting just last week on this point. We here on the show, and this, I know this includes Lori's beliefs, that the great deception is going to be that the aliens are saviors, or they're our space brothers, or they're going to here to save us and we need to listen to them and they're going to make life wonderful again. I listened to a Bible teacher that said something interesting. I'm not sure what I think. I'm not sure what I believe. He said the great deception coming upon the earth is this pansexuality, this gender fluidity. And he made a decent case for that. I didn't look at it super in depth, but he said this is the great deception that's taking over the world. And I had to step back and go, you know what? Maybe, just maybe he's right. And so I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility.
I don't know. So much going on. So much going on. Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, do we have anything to talk about tonight? Anything else? Anything that you guys want to bring up? That's all. I've kind of exhausted everything that I have tonight, so I'm gonna pop it over to you guys.
We can just do your preparations while you can. I mean, basic things, food, water, things like that. I had an example of some food I was trying to buy that 2 weeks ago was $140. I went back to buy another bag of it, and it's $270. Things like this. There's going to be things, if you can't get it now, both with the, I believe, imminent collapse. We had I think it's the leader of Niger that basically said in a speech to his people, I posted it on my page, but get rid of your US dollars because in 2 weeks they're going to be worthless.
I do believe that it's coming quickly.
He said 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying what he said for his country applies to us inside the USA, but this point is still it's darn fast, and people cannot, Americans, I mean, cannot comprehend this. We're in our world. We're used to the dollar having some value, even though with inflation, it's buying less and less and less day by day. But we're not prepared. We're not psychologically prepared for a massive drop.
Well, when you look at the United States as a whole, we have been a privileged nation for so long.
Yes.
We, 9/11 pretty, that did kind of psychologically scar us because, it took us by surprise. We've never had, we had Pearl Harbor
on our own soil. Yes.
Right. We had Pearl Harbor. But that was, our great grandparents, they dealt with that. It wasn't something that we've dealt with that.
But that was still Pearl Harbor, not the let me call it the flagship city, so to speak, of the USA.
Right. But the United States, for those of us that, Gen Z Gen X and even the baby boomer, we have, we've lived a privileged life. We haven't had to stand in lines to get food. We haven't had to, I was young when we were rationing fuel. We're not prepared for what is about to happen to us at all.
We still think we can just put it on the credit card or whatever it is. And even though money is tighter, people are just trying to pretend it's not as bad as it is. A lot of people now are putting their groceries, because groceries are darn expensive. They're putting it on their credit card, and you can't play that game for very long.
That's a bubble. So the bubble will break.
Yeah, your credit runs out, the dollar becomes worthless, things like that. We have not experienced this for ourselves. So I think a lot of people are going to freak out, and I'm encouraging us, and I'm encouraging everyone listening to this, psychologically prepare for. I know you can't totally prepare for it, but you can.
Hyperinflation, prepare for it.
You've got to tell yourself the truth that, hey, I need to be prepared for the dollar being worthless and everything I could do. So many things I can't do, and society doesn't know how to adjust for this. We had, I've seen videos of groups of certain melanated people robbing Gucci stores, and they're robbing expensive luxury status items. Well, if the dollar's worthless, none of that plays. I've got a question for you, Big John. This is a question I have. There's all of these cartels, and by that I mostly mean Mexican cartels, that are operating in the United States. There's a lot of forest rangers and a lot of people in California saying that there's a lot of illegal drug operations literally in the state of California, and it's destroying the water systems and it's destroying a bunch of stuff here. Here's my question. I think this is an interesting situation. I don't know how this is going to play out, but all of this cartel stuff is based on that there's a lot of people in the United States who still have money to purchase drugs, to purchase sex trafficked people, to purchase all of these things that the cartels do. What happens when the dollar is worthless? What happens with all this dynamic? There's still going to be supply and demand, I guess, but Americans are not going to have the money to participate in many of the vices that they've been participating in. What's that going to do with cartel situations? Because the cartels are militarized and all. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. I don't understand enough to understand how that's going to go down. And I don't think, maybe no one does, but what are your thoughts, Big John?
I guess they could almost just count that as a fifth column forces situation.
But I mean, they make money off of selling to us. What if we don't have money? Americans don't have money to buy the bad things that they're buying, people for sex, the drugs that they're used to buying. If the dollar becomes worthless, their means of making money, because they do what they do, without regard to the law, simply as a means to make money.
They make money. Oh yeah, no, they'll turn into, they'll just become a rogue. If they're militarized, they'll become a rogue military unit. They'll take over things. They'll probably take over a few towns and just call it theirs, and then because they can go straight to bartering with alcohol, ammunition, stuff like that.
Okay.
So they would switch.
When the UN goes to...
Go ahead, Lori.
No, I'm sorry. My internet was going out. I didn't think anybody was speaking. I'm sorry.
No, they'll switch currency.
When the military takes over, or I'm sorry, not when the military, pardon me, when the UN comes into a country, they have a specific order on things that they go in and they take. First thing they do is they take control of all of the high-end hotels.
Yep.
And then they take control of the illicit, the drug traffic in the area, and the hookers.
Yep, easily.
That's what they do.
Because that becomes
they're basically the new mafia with the biggest guns, is what you're saying.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like because you got to think, like, when you look at Iraq, besides the cool things that they took from the museum, there was a whole other operation going on, and it involved the banks with the dinar, and they would tell us we'd see dinars on the ground all the time.
What's interesting when you talk about the dinar, now that is the dinar is not just Iraq, but that's another country's money as well, right? It's Iraq and where? I think so. My ex-husband, back when I married him in 2012, he had one of his best friends who talked him into investing in the dinar. And I was like, that's crazy. Why would you do that? He goes, because when the economy collapses, the dinar is what they're going to go with. And that's kind of kept with me, even though, we've been divorced for years, but whenever I hear the dinar, I think about him. He bought $1,000 worth of dinar.
Yeah. They took all that with, they were backing in blowing up banks, SF, British Special Forces, some army units. They were rummaging these banks and just loading these, these trucks up, and they were just getting out of there. No resistance whatsoever. Yeah, but the dinar plays a major role more than people think it does. It wasn't just worthless. We used to step on it and stuff, but there's always, like I said, there's always some group doing something. But as for like cartel, it would turn from the money, and then you would just, like Lori said, take over the prostitutes, and then there's your currency right there. The woman is the currency herself. There is no exchange of of the money, and of course alcohol, spoils of war. In other words,
It's going to be a mess, people. And I would suggest you educate yourselves on Venezuela, what life is like in Venezuela today, what happened in Venezuela. I'm not saying America is going to be exactly like Venezuela, but I think that there are lessons to be learned there. So if I'm just want to encourage you to go, because you can watch YouTubes on it, you can watch testimonials, you can watch documentaries and things like that, and learn what life is like over there, where supplies and resources, I guess is what I want to say, is limited, and there's a thriving black market, and here's how the black market works. Familiarize yourself with that, because these might become lessons for us to learn from and experience, whether we like it or not.
Yes. Two more things, and I'll be quiet. A prison society will exist outside of its walls of the have and have nots. And that's, you got to think about your currency inside of a prison. That will become the same thing in a one civilized society. And the other thing is, this was actually a report that an old buddy of mine that I was in the military with, we laughed about this years ago, but it probably wasn't a laughing matter, but came through the channels that high-ranking Chinese military, a lot of them, probably colonel on up, that they were choosing American Instagram influencers as their wife when they get here. So I would just say, don't become too popular.
And there's reports from years ago that, Russians were carving up things and looking at, using Google Earth and just selecting which houses they're going to live in and plunder and things like that. So here, let me go back to what I said earlier and zoom out to the big picture. Our fake leaders are the way that they are. They're as incompetent as they are, as traitors as they are, all on purpose, all by design, to make us the laughing stock of the world, to have all the nations that used to fear us completely disrespect us, so they won't have any problem invading us. So what they now see us as, and they're going to increasingly see us as, is people who don't deserve to have what we have. Let's say, I'm just ballparking things. Let's say in the 50s, they might have looked at America as, these are very hardworking, industrious people. Let's work hard and be more like them. I'm being just painting with a super broad brush here, folks. But now they look at us as, these people don't deserve what they have. Look what they do with it. Look how undisciplined they are. Look at how they don't appreciate it. Look how entitled and arrogant they are. So in other words, all of these nations, again, broad brush, are looking at us and saying, well, gosh, why don't we just take what they've got? And so I think the USA is now seen, in one hand, it's the way, it's a barrier to the full manifestation and realization of the new world order, the way the globalists want it. But on the other hand, we're looked at just a bunch of rich stuff for the nations to plunder. And this is not a good position to be in. And so we've said a lot of different sobering things on this show, and we're not to be in fear, of course, but we need to be sober. We need to be asking God, hey, how do I've got, extra $20, extra $100, extra, how do I spend that? Do I get 10 more cans of chicken? Do I do this? Do I give this? Do I donate it? Do I put, we've got to use all of our resources and our time more carefully than ever. And I guess that's what I want to say. We've got to take our lives before God and say, God, correct me. If there's stuff I'm indulging in and wasting money on something, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. And I'm not saying you have a depressing life. I'm saying we've got to be strategic in how we live. And a lot of us, and myself, I haven't been in the military. We haven't thought with a literal military mindset. We haven't had the discipline of a literal soldier, but in one dimension of what we are as Christians, we are participants in the kingdom of God, the family of God. And there's a place in the New Testament that talks about us acting like soldiers which we deny what we want to do. And we say, hey, what is our commanding officer? In other words, the Lord Jesus Christ telling us what to do. So take a step back from your normal way of doing things, your just familiar lifestyle, and say, God, if there's adjustments I need to make, let me do that. And I'm saying this because we need to do this sooner and later to avoid all the shock value of when some of these crises hits. It's my opinion, and it's an educated opinion, but I could be wrong, that the evil powers that shouldn't be have a ton of crisis lined up at the very end of August and on into the fall, that there's a whole series of crises that are about to be unleashed upon us. We see how bold they're getting with just burning land away and stealing land. And I think they're making some bold moves because they know that the dollar's about to go away. And so they're doing things in those last moments. I think silver and gold are going to be very valuable. So we're not here to tell you exactly how to live. We're not your boss, but Jesus Christ knows exactly what is right for you, specifically you. Jesus speaks to us on an individual level. Jesus knows exactly what your future is looking like. Now, listen, the other point is that all of us are going to die at some time. This physical earthly life, of course, comes to an end one way or the other. So even if we're living in luxury, which some of us are, a lot of us aren't, we can't hold on to that. And so we have to value that which is eternal. So when things come in and things are taken away from us, our freedom to travel, our freedom to, you can't buy from the grocery store unless you have this, unless you can swipe your palm with this chip in it or whatever. Mm-hmm. We cannot be complying with the system. And so the system of this world has always hated God, but it's going to be more and more bold and out in front. And it's going to be placing demands and bullying you in ways it hasn't been bullying you. It's always wanted to, but now it's going to be doing it in more and more overt ways. And this is what we're seeing. We cannot comply. Do not comply with evil. We have Shadrach and Abednego standing up when the Babylon system said, hey, when the music plays, bow down to the statue of the King Nebuchadnezzar. And they did not bow down at the direct risk of their lives. And so it's coming to a head. We cannot play nice with the world system that hates God. The world system will be doing things that kick us out of the world system. You will have to compromise your faith, and eventually you'll have to sell your soul and taking the mark of the beast if you want to continue to play nice with the world system. The world system is going to hell. Nothing is worth going to hell over. And your family may not agree with you. Your family may not betray you. I want to say another thing. I am grieved. I am grieved by many people that I grew up with that are above average intelligence, that received a good American lifestyle, that had a good education, and how comfortable and knows the facts about the gospel, how lukewarm they are, and how comfortable they are, even in as crazy as things are today. With that said, that they're going to get crazier, I am grieved by them, and I try to put a spark into them. I try to wake them up, and I've been pretty darn unsuccessful at that. And of course, only God can change and transform a heart from the inside out. But these are people that grieve me because they should have known better. They do know better. They were taught better than this. They were educated better than this. How have you gotten so comfortable in this world? And so I think there's several things happening. I think the crisis and the calamity, and, as we saw, a lot of people lost their lives in Maui. A lot of people lost their homes, and a lot of people had to jump in the water to even survive. And a lot of people jumped in the water and still died. There's going to be these things coming. Hopefully this will wake. On one hand, it's evil doing what it wants to do. It's grabbing and it's stealing, killing, and destroying. On the other hand, it can be used by God to wake some of these people up who have willfully kept their heads in the sand. And I can't change them, and I pray for them, but I bet, I'm just taking a guess and saying, I bet, folks, that you out there have people in your lives that you pray over. It could be your kids, could be your friends. For me, it's many of the people I grew up with. that they've had so much good poured into them, and they're just so dead and lukewarm and selfish, and they're so complacent. And this is not going to cut it. And so I'm praying that God uses these things to wake them up, even things that are bad, even things that are stressful and traumatic, that they can give us, people who have near-death experiences or have buddies killed in a war or different, all sorts of bad things happening. That shock to the system can also help people get a fresh perspective on what's truly important in life. And so it's my prayer that even as the evil people are trying to do their evil agendas, that God wakes people up and goes, you know what, you can't continue to be silent. You can't continue to be silent. I've got people that friends and relatives that work for the military industrial complex that is up to all kinds of evil things. It kills a lot of people. I have friends and relatives that work in the medical systems and hospital systems. That's one of the leading causes of death in the United States. And these people are participating in the systems of Babylon. How can you knowing what they're doing? And yet they are. And so I'm sad. I'm stressed. I'm grieved. I admit it. But I've got to be reminded to take these things and go, God, please. I try to share truth with them. Please, you wake them up as only you can. Lori?
I think we got to remember at that point, though, that there are, they truly are reprobates that are out there. And we also need to remember, this is something that I personally had to come to grips with when I first started putting all of this stuff together, when I started doing the channels and the pages and the groups and started, preaching and giving the gospel to people, is I had to come to the realization that not everybody's name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. And, we do have these reprobates out there, and there are people that are not going to come to the realization. And some of those people are going to be our close relatives, and some of those people are going to be the people that we love. And some of those people are going to be the ones that we thought that were awake and that we looked up to as we went on this journey. But, that was a real hard realization for me. So, but
I have a rant. I haven't actually said much because you guys were just hitting everything on the dot as far as like the things I wanted to say. But Marcus, you had a lot of points, and the fact that we live in the fallen world is something that our body should be used to, but our emotions and our soul cannot get used to. We hurt and we grieve and we feel a sadness and a darkness in our hearts for those whose hearts are hardened, and those who continue to reject the Father, the one who created them, and all this stuff that we can talk about until we're blue in the face. It all leads to one thing, is that the end times, as we know it, it's here. And many times throughout history, people have screamed out, "Well, this is the end. This is the end." But never before in history have we had the technology and infrastructure to back the claims. And it's a spiritual battle. It is a war going on for our minds, and it's the battle between the heavenly forces and the demonic forces that reach out and try to touch us and to steer us in one direction or another. And it all boils down to the point where people have to decide what path do they want to travel, because not all roads lead to heaven. There's only one road, and that's through our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And if people do not choose to walk that road, then they are doomed. Their hearts have hardened. We look at the Israelites in Egypt, and which Moses told Pharaoh in the name of the Lord to let his people go, and he wouldn't. His heart kept getting harder and harder. That's what we're dealing with right now, except on a more grander scale. we're going to be living in a Revelation 13:7 society in which the Antichrist will wage war on the saints and overcome them. That's going to happen. And people are not mentally prepared to have that. And unless you are physically prepared and spiritually prepared, it's all for nothing. This life is nothing. It's meaningless. And you talk about, how the financial system is going down and alternative options to prepare and stuff like that. We have to understand everything in this world is controlled by demonic forces, no matter which way you go.
Yeah.
Whether it can be from the food supply, whether it's financial, whether it's educational, whether it's entertainment. It doesn't matter what type of industry it is. It's all controlled by the prince of the power of the air. And we can't rely on our own physical strength, nor can we rely on the weapons and tools of man to overcome what's to come.
Yeah.
Because food can spoil, money can be valuable or be worthless. This world can exist and not exist, but there's no treasures on this earth that we can have in store to prepare us for what's to come. The only thing we can do is cleave on to the rock that provided that foundation for us to build our houses upon, and that's the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And if you don't have that foundation, he will not lead you, because we can run, we can save all the food in the world, we can have all these different types of monetary income investments coming in, but you can't take it all with you, especially when you have to run. So you have no choice but to rely on the Most High to provide you with shelter, food, water, strength.
That's right.
That's what it all comes down to. And the people in Maui, I feel so bad for them, because I know it's not done by nature. I know where it's coming from. I know what all these fires going on in the world. I know what all these wars going on right now and taking place. I know we know where it's coming from. And because we got so many lost souls, we're too blind to see through the veil that they have pulled over our eyes. And we have to remove that veil and open our minds and hearts to, one, see what's really going on, two, accept what's going on, and three, know the way to get out of this alive for eternity.
You're absolutely right. John, final thoughts. Wow.
Two things. I think the majority of smart Americans think that God's work is flying pedophiles to Guantanamo Bay. And I want them to know that all these numbers equal in 17 and this movie mass stuff, that's not, the Lord's trying to work in our individual lives, because we all need different things. So that's one thing. I think that whole Q crap is just totally ruining.
It's giving people hopium. It's giving them the false sense of hope that
it's taking over smart people.
It is. It's almost like they're under a spell.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Even the very elect will be deceived, because it's like, that's not happening, people. God's not, he didn't choose the United States. He's not winking at us like, go ahead and keep using Snapchat and sending nasty pictures and stuff. But guess what? I'm going to send all y'all's bad guys to Guantanamo Bay. It's corny. It's not that's, if they're calling that a movie, that's a movie. You know what I mean? That's dumb, because he's trying to work in our lives. He's not rounding up everybody to fly. Why would he have to just use an airplane? Why can't he just make them fly over there? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and then number two, take Maui as, when it happens to you, look at them and see if you're prepared like them, because you can kind of get prepared, but something like that's exactly from the scripture. you didn't have time to go back to the house to get your stuff. You just had to go. So just think, do I have a place, or do I have, should I listen to the Lord? I guess what I'm saying is just try to listen to your discernment and figure out what the Lord wants you to do, because the people in Maui didn't have time. They were burned up in their cars or whatever happened to them. So, and look out. You think the government's going to come help? You're seeing the government's literally like getting there, staying, laughing at them. Oh, here's your $700 while I, drink mojitos over here or whatever at these resorts.
Right.
Is just know that it's time for you to take care of your family. On a military standpoint, with communities, know who's in your community and figure them out and decide if you want to keep them around.
Exactly. Well, guys, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. We are at that 2-hour mark. It goes fast. I honestly didn't think we have enough content to take us to the 2 hours, but we did, as always. So thank you, Marcus. Thank you, John. I want to thank everybody in our chat room for joining us. I do want to apologize to those of you that are going to be listening to this on our podcast over on iTunes and on Spotify. Bear with us. We will get better. I am so used to being a visual person that I have to figure out a way to try to present the information that I'm presenting in a way that I don't need those visuals. And so there are going to be a couple of things in this broadcast that I made the mistake of not explaining to you guys what you were seeing on the screen. So I do apologize for that. If you are interested in what we were showing, you can always come over on YouTube and take a look at the broadcast there. But please, again, bear with us. We will get better with that as time goes by. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank everybody in the chat rooms. And until next time, guys, remember, eyes open, no fear.